Hey folks, Jack Wilkie here with a rare reaction video. I haven't done a lot of these, but what I have been doing is writing a lot on gender, on masculinity, on femininity, on submission in marriage and headship and things like that. It's all part of a broader project. Just off camera over here, I have, 20, 25 books on those very topics, and I've been going over what has been said in the Christian world on that topic over the years, and really, it's going to be a book at some point. I don't know what the book is going to be. I'm kind of collecting data right now and sharing some thoughts along the way as I do so to pull other people into this conversation. My thought mainly is manly men and feminine women are the key to solving the church's problems, the home's problems, the society's problems, all of those things. And as we can criticize the world for the transgender issue, if they don't know what a man or a woman is, do we understand those kinds of things? And if we got that right, I think you would see a much stronger church culture, much stronger homes, all of those things that we need to have to turn things around. And so that's been, again, my big area of focus. And as you see on my site there, jackwilkie.co, you can go read what I've had to say about it. I'm going to keep writing about it. Be sure you're subscribed to the free email list over there. But here today, I saw a video clip of Dave Ramsey, the finance guy, giving some marriage advice that I thought, this is perfect. It has all of the issues contained in this whole problem, this whole misunderstanding of masculinity and femininity, all in one short little tidy clip. And so I'm going to share that with you. I'll be pausing and breaking down some of the things I see here. But again, I think it just perfectly illustrates some of the problems I've been talking about.
So my husband and I have been having this real issue lately. He believes that he can spend the money any way he wants because he earns it, because he works for it, and because I stay at home, I can't spend it because the luxuries of being at home with our son, like the power and the water, are my little luxuries that I get. So he can go spend it on snacks, he can go spend it on drinks, he can do whatever he wants with it, but I'm not allowed to do the same.
How old? All right, so we're going to stop right there before Dave chimes in and starts steering it in the wrong direction. I'm glad this is a bad example here, a guy that's doing wrong. Now, we're going to keep in mind Proverbs tells us the first to tell their story seems right until the second examines them. Take it with a grain of salt. We don't know the real story. We don't know how much bias she's bringing to this. We're going to assume, for the sake of this video, that this is the actual situation and that the guy would say, yep, that is how I'm doing things. This is really bad. This is a awful headship. This is a guy that's not leading his family well. And so, as I wrote a few weeks ago, the dichotomy that people fall into on these discussions is dictator or doormat. And so when I talk about headship and I talk about leadership, and I'm going to push back on what Dave and his daughter here have to say on the rest of the video, so many times people think, oh, well, you just want men to be dictators. No. What this guy is doing here of telling his wife, you stay home, I get to control the money and spend it on whatever I want frivolously, but not, you don't get to do the same, not good. This is a problem. This is something that a marriage needs to have addressed, and they're going to talk about that some. I think the ways they offer to address it are really bad, as we're about to get to, but I want to make clear, this is not the ideal. This is not, so many times, like I said, when you start talking about headship, this is what people have come to mind, is a guy like this. I'm going to tell you right now, no, that's not what is in mind at all, and this is a problem that needs to be handled.
Who's this little boy?
He is 25.
Uh-huh.
How long have you guys been married?
We've been married for over a year.
Mm-hmm.
How many kids do y'all have?
We have one.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very dysfunctional marriage, Christina.
Yes, I have been told that
Okay, good.
I should just let him deal with the finances because he's the man of the
whoever
house.
told you
Who
that's as
said that?
dysfunctional as he is. Who told you that? His
Lord.
mother?
No, that was him. He said that.
Oh,
because
he told you
God
that.
put
Okay.
him as
I bet
the
he
leader,
did.
that
I bet he
was.
did. Little twerp. Oh my gosh. So, you're dealing with a child.
All right, let's stop right there. If you go to anybody for marriage advice and they start talking about your spouse this way, no matter what all your spouse is doing wrong, go to somebody else. This is not somebody who's going to help you. He has, in the minute 19 of this video so far, called her husband a little boy, a twerp, and a child. This is a man that she still is biblically commanded to honor and respect and to submit to, and no, that doesn't justify everything that he's doing. There's a lot that does need to be worked on here, but calling him these things to her, now to him, if it was the guy calling, tough love, give it to him, amen. But to her, this is not helpful. This is not something, Dave's kind of taking it out on the guy when he's not there and basically telling her, hey, your husband is a loser, he's an idiot, that's not helpful. Saying this is a problem, absolutely. She should be told, yeah, this isn't good and this is something you need to have handled. Don't take advice from somebody who treats your spouse, man or woman, this way and starts running them down to you, calling them names. That's not helping you get to where you need to be.
That's the problem.
Yeah, I try to save money where I can.
Honey, that's not the point. Okay, let me back up and tell you the way this should be, and then we can put that against where it is. Okay, the way it should be is when you are married, regardless of where the income comes from, we have an income. We both have a vote on where every one of those dollars goes. My wife has not worked outside the home in about 40 years. She has an incredible income because we have an incredible income, okay? And she gets to decide with me what we will do with our income. Are you hearing these words clearly? None of that's happening here.
So some good stuff there that they each, that it's their income together. That's right. I mean, spouses don't have that separately. One doesn't get to have all the fun and the other one gets to pay the bills. That's right on that front. But where he says they equally have a vote, that is where you start to go wrong on this thing. That's where this generational mindset of the votes comes to pass, or comes to play into play here. And two people voting, a democracy of two people, doesn't work. You can't have votes, and that's where you get the idea of the tiebreaker vote, or he steps ahead to make the decision. Well, then you're back to where you started here. You can't have a vote. What you have is the man is ultimately going to be responsible, and he has to handle his family's finances. He's the one providing. He's the one, ultimately, if they're out on the street, it's on him. And so it's not that he has full control and she doesn't get to see it or any of those things. It's that whatever is done with it, the final say, the buck stops with him, because he's the one that's going to have to give responsibility. So ideally, it would be that he's getting her input, he's considering her and doing nice things for her, and saying, hey, maybe she would like a few bucks to go shopping here or there or whatever else, and looking at the budget and finding room for those kinds of things and talking with her and, okay, how much does this cost? How much do you need for that? And to meet these bills and the groceries. And even if he completely delegates it to her to say, you handle the finances, it's still coming under his headship. And this is an understanding that is playing out here with finances, but it's this way with everything, is that ultimately the buck does stop with him for the leadership of the home. And so this vote thing ends up pitting people against each other. It's I'm bringing my side, you're bringing your side. A good godly head says, there's no art in my side, your side. There's us. So let me get us to the place where we can both be working in the same direction here and on the same page with this. It seems like a little thing, but watch the way it plays out with this voting issue.
Just because I earn the income at Ramsey and with the things I do in my life, and she doesn't have an earned income personally, does not invalidate her power or her right to a vote inside the household. She has the same exact rights as I do, not only morally and spiritually, but legally. She does.
Here's where it goes bad.
And if he thinks he's in control of his income, let me teach him what a divorce attorney will teach him. He's not in control of his income. They're going to take a big old chunk of it and give it to you and the kid to take care of the kid. So he really does not have as much power as he thinks he has in the law, much less morally, and he's relationally bankrupt. You treat your wife this way, you won't have a wife long. All
right. Dave, dude. Don't call yourself a Christian financial advisor. Don't go. No. This is not Christian in the least. There is a problem here to be solved. There is a guy that's acting poorly. You do not pull the divorce card to threaten to get power back in the relationship. And this is everything that's wrong with modern marriage. And this is again, generationally, Dave is of the generation that invented this. Dave is of the generation that invented Happy Wife, Happy Life, that saw no-fault divorce legalized, that saw divorce go mainstream, and that was just the way that people lived. Well, sorry, we can't do that. And if we're going to have biblical households, well, he's the head of the house until she calls the divorce lawyer. That can't work that way. In fact, in writing about masculinity and femininity and these things, I've had a couple people comment like, well, that sounds nice, but as long as the divorce laws are what they are, this is all a fantasy. Like, this is all fake. To a degree, yeah. And unless a couple has agreed to that or set in place some kind of like other legal agreement, this is the standard of he's the head of the house unless she decides he's not and she calls the divorce lawyer. You can't work this way. A marriage needs to be mutually assured destruction, essentially, that, hey, we're tied into this for life and we're going to work on this together. And maybe Dave's not suggesting, honey, you should go get a divorce. He's just doing well, it's inevitable. You're going to get tired of him. And he kind of says that later on, outside of the clip that I have cut here, of, I just know a lot of women that got tired of their husbands and that was the end of it. Don't give people that advice. And so when we're talking about what biblical marriage is, divorce isn't on the table. And I mean, because if you get to the point of divorce, it's biblically gone so far off the rails that we're not in the realm of those kinds of things anymore. Bad financial management, selfishness in these ways, that is not grounds for divorce. And notice what he said, that you'll get power back in the relationship this way. This is the kind of thing that throws it all off. Does the guy need to be addressed? Yes, and he's about to talk about here in a minute. But the idea of grabbing power back through a lawyer, this is everything wrong with what modern Christianity understands about marriage is right here.
Because, honey, you may put up with this for a while, but you're going to wake up in a few years and go, I'm done with you being a jerk.
And treating me like a second-class citizen. I'd like him to stay home with a kid. Let me tell you, Christina, it's much easier being in a workplace with a bunch of adults than being home all day. It's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting. You work harder than he does.
Just briefly on this, if you go to somebody that pits you against your spouse and starts making you keep score, also not a good thing. These people don't need to be giving marriage advice to anyone. Staying at home with the kids is hard. Working is hard. It's not... We don't need to measure who's doing more or anything like that. That's not how happy marriages work.
What you guys desperately need is to get involved in a good, strong local church.
A church that is healthy and doesn't
a healthy church
yes.
that isn't supporting his ridiculous
ideas. That's what I'm going to say. You get some.
But I mean, you get a church that lovingly will teach you exactly what we taught you, and get some men in his life to teach this little boy how to be a man. Because masculinity that's true.
All right, I'm going to stop there before Dave gets his masculinity spiel going. Yes, a good church is the answer to this. This is my frustration is, will they find a good church? And what they're saying here is one that tells them what we told you. No, don't go to a church that tells what they told. That's what most churches do, is kind of put the man in the corner, put the wife back as the head of the home. She wears the pants. That's what Christianity has done to marriage. There's a guy who wrote a whole book on that called White Knights and Reviling Wives, of basically how churches always side with the wife. And yeah, the guy needs to be confronted here. He needs men in his life. And honestly, as I said, guys that maybe would pull him aside and say, you're acting like a child and this has to stop. That's what should be happening to this man in this situation. On the other hand, they say a good church, I would not go to the kind they're recommending because it's going to swing it back the other direction. You need a church that says, hey, buddy, you're the head of the household and you can't afford to act like this. You've got to bless and love your wife in this way. And that would be healthy. That's what is needed here. Well, now Dave's going to tell us about servant leadership and servant masculinity here.
Little boy how to be a man, because masculinity that's true and not toxic is service oriented. He serves his wife, he serves his kid, and that's what he should be doing, and he's doing the opposite of that. You guys desperately need marriage counseling, honey, desperately. We can't fix him on this call. It's too you're too messed up.
He's right. They can't fix him on this call, although they've attempted and have run him down and all of the things they've done here. But masculinity is service-oriented. It is, as long as it's leading. As I wrote before, and I'll talk about some more, servant leadership, it sounds really nice, but there's no leadership in servant leadership. What this guy needs to be taught is actual leadership. And what Dave and his sidekick here have said is, no, he doesn't actually have leadership. It's all about service. Well, why is a guy going to sign up for a equal vote thing, and then he's told, oh, by the way, you got to serve, so with your vote, you have to vote for her option every time? This is a messed up system. It doesn't work this way. And so what they're telling them to do sounds good, but it's missing the boat on what actually is supposed to happen in a marriage from a biblical sense when you get into Ephesians 5 and 1 Peter 3 and those kinds of things. So yes, serve, and he should be serving, and he's not serving, and that's a valid critique, but they don't really have a clear picture of what it should look like.
This is just a mess. But what I do want to do for you is to confirm that you're not the crazy one, okay? The feelings that you're having that this is improper are accurate feelings. They're accurate observations, logical observations. And these are two people sitting completely outside of there. Rachel's marriage does not run this way. My marriage does not run this way. And both of them have a lot more zeros.
And any good therapist, marriage therapist would say it's not run that way.
Yeah.
That's not that is a complete level of control, and can start to be in the sense that you don't even have the ability to access the money, which then becomes another huge problem. And so it's not okay, Christina. Yeah. It's not okay.
If your baby is a daughter, you're teaching her how women are supposed to be treated by accepting this treatment. Don't do that to her. That's not fair. If your baby is a son, you're teaching him how he's supposed to treat women by accepting the way that you're being treated. Don't do that. That's not fair. So you guys are horrible parents because you're modeling out a dysfunctional thing before this brand new baby right now. And so you've got to work on this, kiddo. You got to go get some help, and you got to demand it. And we're going to go get some help. I'm going whether you're going or not, and if you don't go, then I may go.
All right. The divorce threat once again. I love that, how he says, look what you're modeling for your children, whether it's a son, whether it's a daughter, and if it doesn't work, go get divorced. I may go to the divorce lawyer. What does that do for the kids, Dave? How does that help them? And so, again, it's terrible advice. The advice of go get help is good advice. There's something here that needs to be fixed. Again, this guy needs to be set straight on the way he's leading his family, but bringing the divorce threat back in. But then the other thing, what they're telling her is what you're teaching your daughter, what you're teaching your son. Looking at this biblically, saying we need to fix some things, we need to work on things, work on our marriage, that's a positive thing to set an example and not just going along and letting your household be in shambles. I agree with that to a point. On the other hand, showing submission and respect for somebody who doesn't seem respectable, someone that you don't want to submit to, that's a good example to set for your kids. That's what 1 Peter 3 is talking about when it says do these things, and you don't need to be afraid. You don't need to be afraid if when you're called to submit, it's hard and it's a fearful thing to submit to somebody who probably doesn't deserve it or isn't acting in a way to deserve it. In the same sense of a husband who has a wife who is really difficult and not doing what she's supposed to do, he's still told to love her, to not be bitter toward her, to make her feel cherished, and all of those things that the Bible commands of him in Ephesians 5 and Colossians 3. That's what you should model to your kids, and saying, well, teach your kids not to tolerate this behavior or get out of there. That's the opposite of what the Bible says. Working through these hard things as men and as women, as husbands and as wives, is the opposite of what culture is going to tell you. Unfortunately, it's the opposite of what the quote-unquote Christian financial advisor guy is going to tell you. But as I said, there was so much going on. I saw a 2-minute clip of this the first time, and it's like, man, this touches on everything. It touches on the misunderstanding of headship. It touches on the problem of divorce. It touches on how these problems should be handled. And so I really want to get into this and kind of have a longer breakdown to flesh out a practical example of some of the things I've been writing on. And so if you want to tune in for those, don't miss those. JackWilkie.co, again, is the website and the free email address, or the Church Reset podcast. The audio of these videos and any articles I do go up on Church Reset podcast, free every time I get done with one. And so keep an eye out for there. Make sure you're subscribed. And if you got more clips, if you got more things you've seen in the culture, things you've, podcasts or whatever, that cross into this sphere, as I said, I've got all these books. I'm looking at all this Christian content for how these issues are handled within the Christian world, and there's very little of it that's done well. And so if you see something that's done well, I would love to especially see that. But really, anything you come across, drop it in the comments, shoot me a Facebook message, drop it on my website, wherever you find me, and I would love to hear from you on that front. So that's all I've got for this time. Be sure, once again, you're subscribed, and I'll talk to you guys on the next one.